I'm going to pass it over to Charlotte and Alexandra. Charlotte works with us at the Early Childhood Investment Corporation, and then Alexandra works with the North Carolina Division for Child Development and Early Education. So thank you all for being here, and we'll get today started.
All right, thank you, Michael. Welcome, everybody. I just want to say welcome again to the Early Childhood Family Leadership Conference today. And Alexandra and I are going to be doing a few fun things here this morning to get you warmed up and ready to go and comfortable in our space. So I am the program coordinator for the Early Childhood Investment Corporation, and I'll let Alexandra introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. I am thrilled to see we have 227 participants on this call and counting. I'm Alexandra Morris, and I'm with the North Carolina Division of Child Development and Early Education. And my role is to be the state level family engagement coordinator. So I support family engagement and family leadership being embedded into our early childhood systems. And that's what this conference is about, really supporting that family voice, lifting it up, and gathering all you fabulous family leaders together today. So thanks again, everyone, for playing along. And we do hope that today is about connection and really feeling connected with each other and inspired. And also just having that opportunity to, again, build the knowledge, skills, and connections to flex your powers as parent leaders in early education and whatever other systems your children and community are involved in. And I want to go ahead and just introduce some of the parent leaders who have been instrumental in the work that we've been doing to build family leadership. Again, this conference is brought to us by the Division of Child Development and Early Education through a grant called the Preschool Development Grant. And these 4 parent leaders who are about to share have been instrumental in helping us build this work and really shape it so that we can bring resources like today to you all. So I'll go ahead and pass the mic over to Kim Hill, our first fabulous parent leader, who's going to tell you her story. And then she will continue to share with our other 3 amazing parent leaders.
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here and I'm excited to welcome you all and to kind of kick this conference off today. My name is Kim Hill and I live in Raleigh. I have 4 children. My second oldest is named Caitlin and she's 13 years old. Caitlin is deaf due to something called congenital CMV. CMV stands for cytomegalovirus. And like it sounds, it's a virus. I contracted CMV for the first time during my pregnancy, and then it was passed on to Caitlin when I was pregnant with her. CMV can cause a whole host of issues, but the most common is hearing loss. I started my parent leadership journey in 2014 when Caitlin was 4 years old. I was finally at a point where I felt like her health was stable enough, and I had a little bit more time, and I was able to get involved in advocacy work. So kind of the first thing that happened for me was the director of a national CMV organization asked parents from around the country to reach out to their state EDI coordinator and just encourage that coordinator to stop by a booth that they were hosting at an upcoming conference. EDI, it's the letters EHDI, and it stands for Early Hearing Detection and Intervention. And it's a national program, federally funded, but every state has its own chapter. So every state has like one contact person. So I contacted that person for North Carolina. I asked her to stop by that booth at the conference. And I also just asked her what sort of advocacy work was being done locally and if there's anything that I could join in or help out with. And that first conversation led to lots of opportunities as the years went on. I wanted to get involved in advocacy work for a few reasons. CMV is complicated in that it's a virus, right? So it's everywhere. It's hard to avoid. I think a lot of us learned that with COVID in the past couple of years. Like you can take all the right steps, but sometimes you still get COVID. It's the same with CMV. But there are some simple steps that you can take to help lessen your chances of contracting CMV. CMV is the most common congenital virus in the United States, but I was never told about it. by any of my providers when I was pregnant or before that. And I was frustrated and angry that I felt like that information had been withheld for me. And one of the only things that I felt like I could do about that, and still one of the only things I can do, is work to change that, right? Work to change the education that it surrounds CMV and make sure more women hear about it. Another reason that I wanted to become involved is because as I went on this journey with Caitlin, through schooling, through different services that we might have, I realized how many privileges and opportunities were available to her and to us because of work that people had done in the past. So actions or legislation that parents and professionals had pushed through years ago really benefited her today. I'm talking about things like the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act or the Americans with Disabilities Act. Those things provide a lot of protections and rules for our children today. And I really appreciate the work that people have done in the past. And I sort of feel like it's my turn to pay it forward. Even though maybe what I do won't directly benefit my daughter, we have greatly benefited by the work that other people have done in the past. So since contacting my EDI coordinator back in 2014, I've been able to be part of quite a few programs. Different programs with EDI have been wonderful to be part of. I'm also part of a group that presents modules to parents across the state to help grow their leadership and advocacy skills. I have a board position with the National CMV Foundation, as well as a role on the UNC Children's Hospital Parent and Family Advisory Board. What I've learned is that once you find like that right person, once you get that connection, there's so many opportunities. They just keep coming. Most recently, I participated in the Training of Trainers program, which aims to teach North Carolina organizations how to welcome families to the table. If you'd like to hear more about my journey or how you can share your stories and become more involved in advocacy work, I am facilitating a workshop this morning during conference session 1 at 10:35. Thank you so much for your time. I am going to pass this on to Lakeisha. Is Lakeisha here? Last time I checked, she hadn't jumped on.
I'll go next, Kim.
Okay, perfect. If Marilyn could go next. Marilyn and I participated in the trainers program together, and I'm excited for you to hear a little bit from her today as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marilyn Burnaby. I am very excited to be here today to introduce our conference keynote. I am a parent leader who took this journey because I was someone who did not see myself as an expert in my field of parenting. And eventually I became empowered. And now I want to share that with other parents, kind of like my how-to, and hope that it helps other parents too to become empowered. I hope that today helps all of you find your why as well. With this, please help me welcome our first speaker of the day. Dr. MariaRosa Rangel has over 25 years of educational experience. She obtained her bachelor's degree in bilingual, bicultural, and elementary education from the Northeastern University of Chicago, Illinois, and her master's degree in school administration and doctoral degree in education from North Carolina State University. She has served as a third grade bilingual teacher, a GED instruction, Spanish ESL teacher, and assistant principal, a district-wide LEP dual language coordinator, and a senior administrator for Latino outreach. Currently, Dr. Rangel serves as the Director for Family and Community Engagement in the Office of Equity Affairs for the Wake County Public School District, WCPSS. She is responsible for the planning, developing, and coordinating family and community activities, events, and programs to improve students' academic achievement. Dr. Rangel is active and well-respected within the Latino community and has received numerous awards and recognition for her service to her community and North Carolina families. She is here to provide us with engagement and advocacy strategies that we can use to support our children and grow this work. Wow, she's amazing. Please welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. MariaRosa Rangel.
Buenos dias, good morning. How's everybody doing today? I hope everybody's having a great day. I'm going to get ready. Let me get my presentation going. And just give me a second and we will be able to engage with each other. Can you see my big screen, Michael? Hold on just one second.
Yes, we can see it.
Oh, okay. I don't want you to, do you see the?
We see the full screen.
Okay, you see both? Okay, hold on.
Nope, it's just the one big screen. You're good.
Okay, perfect. So today, this morning, I'm really excited to be your keynote speaker. And first of all, I want to tell you that I am a parent. My baby is a senior now, and I've been engaged with PTA and just being involved and engaged in my child's education when he was in pre-K. So I have been a witness of what it means to be engaged. What does it mean to really advocate? And what I want to share with you this morning is my experience as a parent, as an educator, as an administrator, and also someone that provides workshops for parents across Wake County Public Schools in multiple languages. We do them in 8 different languages, and the whole objective is to provide parents and caregivers with the tools that they need to become engaged, but also to make sure that they really can support their children's education at home. So my hope for you this morning is that you will walk away with really understanding how critical it is for parents and caregivers to be engaged, because I believe that if parents are engaged, they're going to become advocates. Right. And then if you become an advocate, you're going to have access. And access to what? To academic success. That's what we want. We want our kids to become academically successful, that they can go on and pursue whether they want to go to a 4-year college university, whether they want to go to a community college and just get a certificate and maybe a vocational trade, whatever it is. However we as parents define academic success, that's what we want for our children. So let's get this presentation started. I am really excited just to give you all this knowledge that I have acquired during my 22 years, actually 20 years working with family engagement. And I have actually 29 years in education. And I've been a classroom teacher like you heard in my bio. But I think that from all the different roles that I had, the role that I really, really enjoy is to be the Director of Family and Community Engagement. So there are very different ways, right, that we refer to family engagement. I don't know which term is used in your school community. So what I would like for you to do is to go ahead and, if you don't mind, on this chat, just tell me which term is used in your school community. We practiced the chat this morning, so go ahead, don't be shy. I see involvement, family engagement, very good. What else? Parent participation, engagement, very good. Family partnerships, very good. So some of you have heard some of these terms. Parent involvement, homeschool partnership, homeschool relationships, parent outreach. I see some folks put family engagement / involvement. Well, all these terms are all correct. You know, there's always a nuance of which term is being used, and words, just like different terms, evolve during time. And parent involvement, or whether it's parent outreach, whether it's homeschool partnerships or homeschool relationships, has evolved, but it means all those things to now being family engagement. But it's not even just family engagement. And hopefully I'll tell you a little bit more about the other piece. Well, let me tell it to you now. It's basically family and community engagement. If you look at the acronym, it's FACE, like a face, and it basically stands for family engagement, and it's family engagement and also the community. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that means and what that looks like. But before we get into really understanding family engagement, I need for you to do me a favor and tell me what family engagement means to you versus family involvement, okay? We're looking at the different terms as far as engagement and involvement. What does those two different terms mean to you? Put it on the chat. So what does engagement mean versus involvement? Let's see, I think engagement means the school sends out information to the family, being there for the child, engagement, be part of the child's growth. Someone says engagement means you are involved, which means you're actually participating. One, interaction, being involved in the child's education, being active. Involucrar es participar, very good, which means involvement is engagement. And engagement is knowing, involvement is doing. Ooh, let's get to this. So it's all those things, but I'm going to give it to you in my own terms, right? Basically, when you think about family involvement, is to do for. I'm going to give you an example what that means, to do for. When we parents go to the school and we go to, let's say, curriculum night, for example, you get there, you're really excited, you know, you want to know what's going to happen, how is your child going to learn, you know, you want to kind of meet the teacher as well. Maybe it's your first time going into the school, going into that classroom, meeting the teacher for the first time. So you get there, all the parents get there, and the teacher gets there. Obviously, everybody's nervous. And the teacher starts lecturing, right? Just dumping all this information at you. And you're like, okay, you're just trying to absorb everything. So basically what the teacher is doing for you. They are just dumping all the information for you. Whereas engagement is to do with. Think about it. It's to do with. It's still bringing you to that curriculum night. It's still, you know, having you there, but it's having those two-way communications. It's about creating a space for you at the same time to create community with other parents. It's to create community with the teacher, to kind of have the Q&A, which is question and answer, right? It's about, okay, parents, I used to be a third grade teacher, by the way. I am your third grade teacher today, and I know you have a lot of concerns and questions. So I would like you in your table with the other parents to come up with some questions that you might have about this special, exciting year of your child's life. So now what I'm doing is engaging them, right? We're going to engage, but having them talk about what questions or concerns might they have about third grade. Think about what the teacher is doing in this scenario. It's creating community for those parents, because it's so critical for parents to know other parents, to create that trust, to create that community. But also, I'm giving them the opportunity to brainstorm some of the concerns and questions that they might have. And I know as a teacher that they want to know, what are you going to teach this year? You know, what exams or assessments or rubrics is my child going to have to take? So, which I know as a teacher, I know that that's what I want them to know. But the way I'm doing this is I'm having the parents ask me those questions. So then it becomes a two-way conversation where I am doing with instead of doing for. So my version, Dr. Rangel's version, is involvement is to do for, but family engagement is to do with, okay? So I want you to think about those two definitions when you are thinking about the presentations that you're working with, that you would like your parents to, that you want to teach your parents, leaders to do, or even as a parent. When you go to the school for the first time and you see that the teacher's not engaging you, you need to let her know. I would like for us to engage in a two-way conversation. I'm going to give you more examples of what that might look like. So we talked about involvement and engagement, but also we need to define family engagement. And this is one of those, how do you define family engagement? When I was doing my research for family engagement, I kept reading and I wanted to find this definition that really spelled it out for me. And what I found out is that it is the biggest gap in literature. The way people define family engagement is very different. If we were to be face to face, I would ask each and every one to take a few minutes to just define it. And then I would have you share it with your partner. And then I will have you share it at the table. And what you will find out is that everybody defines family engagement differently. Then when you deal with different cultures and different experiences, because everybody brings their culture, their philosophy, the way they think, then it becomes a little bit more different how we define family engagement. So let me give you an example. I think I mentioned to you that we do parent workshops in 8 different languages. All those families that we represent, that we want to engage, that we want to give the tools, when we ask them to define family engagement, it looks so different across different cultures. And then you bring in your own experiences, which brings another layer of how you define family engagement, based on your experiences, based on your culture, based on your level of engagement. So I want to give you my perspective as a Latina immigrant. When I came to this country, I was 9 years old, and my mom was a single mom, immigrant. And the way she engaged in Mexico was very different than how she engaged in the school here in the United States. One of the things I noticed is that as I was going to school, I noticed parents of other kids, I guess other classmates' parents will come to the school. And they were there a lot. And I always often wonder why my mom wasn't there like the other parents. I knew my mom worked, but I also knew that they did a lot of evening events and sometimes Saturday events. But my mother was never there. But that didn't mean that she didn't care for me or my education. It just meant that the way she engaged was very differently. For Mexicans, engagement looks very different. I remember as I got older, I asked my mother that. I said, Mom, how come you were never at the school? And she said to me, I don't need to be in school to engage in your education, Rosa. I have to make sure that you were ready to go to school, that you have your supplies, that you were clean, that you have breakfast, that you were peinada, that means that my hair was combed, and that you were ready to go and learn. I said, but honey, I always supported you and engaged with you by giving you consejos, by giving you advice, by inspiring you to do well in school. And then as I got into education and I started teaching and I started engaging with different parents, I got it. My mom was one of those invisible parents, but that didn't mean that she was not engaged. She was very engaged because she made sure that I went to school, that I had a space in the house where I could sit down and do my homework, where I had the supplies that I needed. Mind you, she couldn't help me with homework because she couldn't speak the language. She could barely read and write. I mean, she only went to school up to 2nd grade, but she was so smart in math. And I remember she would when she was cooking, she said, okay, everybody gather, start doing homework. It was 6 of us. Let's do homework. Everybody do your homework, get your supplies. Let's do it, let's go, come on. And she was cooking, and then she would see us talking among our siblings. And then I remember this like it was yesterday, and my mother passed, by the way. She had this red lipstick, and she'll walk around and said, Let me see what you're doing. What are you working on? I said, I have to write sentences, Mom. And then she would look at it and goes, that's wrong. That's wrong. And she would use the red lipstick. And I'd be like, Mom, don't do that. You're making my homework dirty. And she goes, no, it's wrong. Do it again. Do it again. And I will sit there and I will look at it and I said, but it does seem right. And I was like, I couldn't understand why would she even do that? Of course, I would go to school the next day and the teacher would mark it right. And then I would come and say, Mom, why did you mark it wrong? She goes, because it was wrong. Well, as I got older and I asked her that question, I said, why would you always mark our papers with your red lips to say that was wrong? And she says, because at the time, Rosa, I didn't have the skills, the strategies to sit there and teach you and really support you with homework. It was my way to make sure that you were paying attention. And then it dawned on me, oh my God, she did that. And it makes sense at the time because I will sit there and I will look at it and go over it and go over it and go over it and take it to the teacher. And I would argue with the teacher. And I said, my mom said it's wrong, but I think it's right. And my teacher would kind of giggle and said, it's correct, Rosa. So again, the way we define family engagement has a lot to do with how we're going to engage our parents. As a parent, we need to make sure that we understand what does that mean. Family engagement, there is a definition that I came across from the National Association for Family, School, and Community Engagement that says that family engagement is a shared responsibility in which schools are committed to reaching out to engage families in meaningful ways and in which families are committed to actively supporting their child's learning and development. Let's unpack this definition. What does that mean? That means that the school has a shared responsibility, okay, with the parents to engage them, to bring them into the school and give the parents the tools that they need. Whether the parent could read or not, whether the parent could speak the English language or not, it is the school responsibility to engage with these families in meaningful ways, which means that if my mother would have come to the school, or the school would engage with her, my mother would have then shared with them, you know, I could barely read and write. How do I support my child? We have technology that has advanced so much, and every teacher, every school, every district has some online resources that we as parents can share with their children, whether it's one for reading or math, even one where they could go and get books so they could read. If we could share those 3 resources with parents, whether they could read or write in English, whether they could even write and read in their own language. If you teach the parents and say, I want to teach you 3 online resources, and I want you to, and I want to put them on your phone, and I want you to make sure that you let your child sit for 20, 15, 30 minutes and work on reading, work on math, read some books. And if you could just monitor that, you will see an increase in academics. But also it is the responsibility of you as a parent to engage with the school. It's not about you and us working separately. It's about us as partners.
Let me
We
get up.
are your child's first teacher. You know your child better. You could share with me how I can better teach your child. I could give you some resources, but it has to be meaningful. And it has to be interactive. Engagement is to do with. And that's what we want to do with families. We want to make sure that they're committed to actively support the children's learning and development. If you are a parent or a caregiver of a young child, this is the perfect time for you to be engaged. If you have multiple children in different grade levels, it is still time for you to engage in your child's education. It's never too early. It's never too late. I know that some parents have negative experiences with the schools. Maybe they were mistreated in one way or another. Let's put that behind us and think about what's best for our child. And if they mistreated you, be honest and say, look, I had bad experiences with the school, and I need to trust you. I need to trust the system. So please help me trust the system by us working together in partnership. You know, there is over 50 years of research, 50 years of research. And as an educator, when I go and coach principals, when I go and coach schools, I get so sad sometimes and angry to a point that educators are not listening to the research. We need to learn from the research. If there's over 50 years of research that tell us that family, parents, caregiver engagement is one of the strongest predictors of a child's success in school, then we need to invest. We need to invest in parents. We need to take the time to engage with the parents. And you know what research also says? Parents, families, caregivers support is more important to school success than student IQ, intellect. Then whether you are rich, poor, the economic status, or school settings, whether your school is the most beautiful school to the maybe the more run out school, doesn't matter. What matters is that you as a parent, as a leader, you engage with the system. So there's research that talks about what parents and caregivers, what is the research? What is the benefit for students and parents and the school and community? There's a benefit. And the benefits are for students is that they will have higher grades. When you are engaged, your kids will get higher grades. They will do better as far as being in school, attendance and homework completion. Even if it has written all over like I did, like my homework did, but my homework was done. So more positive attitudes. You know, kids are going to be happy to go to school. They know that their parents are engaged and the teacher knows that you are engaged as a parent, as a leader, as a caregiver. So kids, their positive attitudes. I remember when I would go to my child's school and I would be there and he smiled. Oh my God, that face is like I could still see my bebito, you know, my baby who's going to be 18 years old pretty soon. And his eyes would just light up and he smiled and I would hear him say, "That's mother. Oh, yes, she's Mexican and she speaks Spanish." And I will see his face just lit up. Oh, and she teaches too. And I will just see that, you know, his attitude, of course, he will do better. And then, of course, higher graduations rate. My child's going to graduate. I graduated. My siblings graduated, except for 2. But 4 out of 6, not bad, right? We graduated. Greater enrollment in college. Kids will go more to go to school, college. Maybe they don't know what they want to be at the time, but they know they have to go to college. They have to go to the university. So higher enrollment in college. So those are the benefits for the students, but also there's benefits for the school. It improves the teacher's morale. When all the kids are doing well, the teacher knows I'm doing a great job. Parents are engaged. The kids are paying attention. And so the morale is higher. There's higher rating of teachers by parents. Teachers know I want my child to be in Dr. Rangel's class. I want my child to go to the school because I hear all the teachers care, engage parents. So again, and you have to know that parents do talk to each other, okay? I know that. I know that in my community, in los Latinos communities, we talk. Nos gusta hablar. So we pass the word, we share the wisdom. So of course, better reputation in the community. Yes, people want to move in that neighborhood. People want to go to that school. Higher expectations of students. We know that teachers will have higher expectations because if they know that parents are going to be paying attention, that we are on top of our children's education. So it's about higher expectations, increase the ability to understand family views and culture. You know, there's a lot of, in fact, across the nation, most of the teachers that are teaching our students are teachers that are white, and there's nothing wrong with them. The problem is that they need to learn about the students' demographics. They need to understand who are their parents, where are they coming from. They need to have the cultural competencies to really understand who we are as parents and really understand our culture and our cultural views. And again, it's about knowing your students too and understanding the funds of knowledge that we bring. We are not empty vessels. We have a culture, we have tradition, we have beliefs, but we care. I have not met a parent that did not care for their child's education. I'm telling you this. I interact with parents and I feel the love, I feel the passion that they have about their kids. I see and I hear that they want the best. They want the best for their children. Many of us migrate to this country for that reason, because we want to provide better for our kids. So yes, it is a good opportunity for schools to learn about different cultures. So again, those are the benefits for the school, but there's also benefits for this community. Remember I told you it's family engagement and community too. Family community engagement, FACE. The community has also responsibility to help and support schools and parents. It truly takes a whole village to educate a child. And that is all of us working together. So there's benefits for the community, greater strength, greater impact of services throughout the community. Think about all the resources that you have in your community that you might not even know. Bring them in, bring them to the school, share those resources, share whatever organizations, community resources, look around, do an asset map, get out of your comfort zone, go out into the community, start looking at what it's around us that we could tap into to bring into the schools that we could work with, that we could encourage them to come and support our students. It also increases the access to services for families. Think about how many families could tap into those services. And again, it's working together, not against each other. There's also benefits for you, for parents, for caregivers, and this is what I need you to pay attention to. There's interactions and discussions with the children about academics. When you're engaged, you're going to know what's expected. You're going to know what's going to be taught. You're going to know about different opportunities for your kids, whether it's a club, an after-school activity, whether it's a conference, whether it's a program, whether it's a summer camp, whether it's an opportunity. So you will be able to interact with your child and talk about those things. Even if you don't know how to read and write, you could still hear and you could share that information. And please, 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 if you cannot read and write, does not mean that you cannot be engaged. I told you my mother could barely read and write, but she supported us. She engaged with us. And look, she did good, right? Who would have thought? Her little Rosita will become a doctor one day, right? In education. So again, we need to make sure that parents, caregivers, become responsive and sensitive, right, to their child's emotional and social and intellectual development needs. We're getting over COVID. We know that there was a lot of learning loss. We know that students went through a lot emotionally. I know I lived it. My child went through it. And now he's doing well. He is thriving. And it is my job to pay attention to all those little things. But also keep in mind that our kids, as they develop, they start changing, their personalities change, and we need to be paying attention. We need to learn from how they're growing, how they are developing, so that we could then respond when we see changes, especially those rapid changes. And then we need to find out what's causing those changes. With COVID, my child went through a lot, and I have to reach out to the schools for support. I have to reach out to the counselors. I have to reach out to the teachers and let them know to please keep an eye on him, how isolated he was feeling, how emotionally it was draining him. And working together and being on top of that, my child thrives. And now he is just a happy boy. He's just being a teenager, and it's okay. We got to keep in mind too all the hormonal changes that happens as our child evolves with age. There's a lot of changes in personality. You know, there's stress in academics, there's stress just to fit in, but we have to be there to support them, and we're not alone. We have to tap into the schools, the social workers, the teachers, and work together. But sometimes you don't have to tell your child that you're doing this. You have to go around them, especially when they're teenagers. They don't want that. When they're little, they want you there. Kids want you to be there. They want all that attention. They want to feel loved. They want to feel safe. And it is our job to do that, to create that environment so that they could thrive. So again, we need to keep an eye on that. It also gives us confidence in our parenting and decision-making skills. We learn from other parents as we get engaged. We learn about different opportunities, about maybe workshops that could help you to become a better parent. Let me tell you, there's not a menu that tells you how to go about parenting, okay? You have to learn, but it's also great to listen to other people, but every child is different. So some parenting skills might work for one child, but not for the other. You know your child best. Remember that? You are your child's first teacher. So it is our job as parents to feel confident and to work with our kids and make sure that we try different things, and hopefully we'll become great parents. And that's what we want. We need to also, as parents, understand the curriculum. Understand exactly what is your child going to learn, what exams, end of the year testing is going to require. We need to ask questions. We need to find out about the different programs that they offer. And when we talk about advocacy, I want to let you know, but we need to engage with learning opportunities. Also at home, it's critical that at home we use every moment to teach our kids. There's many ways that we could do it when we're cooking, when we are going to the grocery shopping. We could talk about vegetables, we could talk about colors, we could talk about math. When you're putting gas in your car, you could talk about gas. You need gas to what? To run the car. It takes miles. What are miles? You know, start educating them on the different terms that we use. For the early kids, you know, they need to learn about shapes and colors and sequence and letters, and know that letters have sounds, and sounds create words, and words create phrases, and phrases create sentences, and sentences create paragraphs, and paragraphs could tell a story. So, you know, you just have to gradually introduce things to them. They're little sponges, they're absorbing everything. We got to take them out to the park, to the museums. Let's find out when it's free. There's always one day of the week when it's free, and expose them to nature, take them out. If there's activities in the community, find out how can you take them in to participate. And then to perceptions of commitment to the school, it's critical. As you become more engaged, your perceptions are going to change about the school. Also, it's about being aware of the policies that affect our children's education. There's a lot of inequities happening right now. But the only way for us to interrupt the inequities is to get to the root of it, which is the policies. Some of these policies are so old that they need to be updated. So we need to make sure that we keep this going. The ability to advocate for child's education well-being. We need to learn how to advocate, and I'm going to spend a few minutes right now to talk to you about what that looks like, because I believe that advocacy is something that every parent should do, every caregiver should do, every family should do. So those are the benefits. So when you think about engagement, there's a lot of benefits for everybody. But also, I want you to think about the obstacles, okay? There's going to be obstacles. There's always obstacles, right? Think about it. If everything was given to you, would you want that? But then again, you don't want to go over the obstacles, right? You don't want it to be so hard or too difficult, but you also want to go over the obstacles. Growing up, I mean, we had a lot of obstacles as a family. As I mentioned to you, my mom was a single mom, an immigrant, couldn't speak the language, couldn't read or write in Spanish. And just to be able to navigate all the different systems, it's not just the educational system, it's the judicial system, it's the health system, it's all those different systems. And then within the educational system, it's all those different systems within the system. So there's always going to be obstacles, but we need to make sure that we put them to the side when it comes to what's best for our students, for our children. Time. We always say we don't have time. We have to make time. And if they ask you to come to school and you don't have time and you really want to find out what's going on, hey, tell the teacher, would it be okay if I call you for a few minutes and you could just give me a summary of what I missed, or how can I support my child? Can we have a quick 5-minute conference if you missed the whole conference, just to talk about and touch bases? I know that transportation sometimes is a big issue, especially when it's parent-teacher conferences, which is crucial for families to engage through going to parent-teacher conferences, because it's a way for you to find out what's happening, and also for you to share concerns and also share things about your child that the teacher might not know. If transportation is an issue, try to find out if you could meet virtually, a phone conference, or ask them to come to the community. Yes, ask the teachers, the school, to come into your community. Believe it or not, a lot of schools do that already. I support many schools where I take them to the community where I know my parents cannot go to the school. Knowledge of the educational system. Even if you are an English-speaking parent, sometimes understanding the educational system, it's a little difficult and complex. So find out how the educational system works. You could Google it, you could research it, you could ask your teachers, can you explain to me how the educational system works? Support from school. If you need support from school, don't be afraid to ask. Remember, family engagement is a two-way conversation, not a one-way. You need to be able to have a two-way conversation. You could feel comfortable telling the school, I need your support. If there is a language barrier, ask the school for an interpreter or translation services. If they don't have one, find out if you could find someone from the community to be your interpreter or translator. Understand some of the terminology. Educators have all these acronyms and all these words that make no sense, even in English. Here's a good one. Rubric. Why do we have to use the word rubric? Why could we just make it say an evaluation, a test, a quiz, make it easy? But even then, if they start using this new language, multilingual instead of English language learner or ESL student, find out, what is a multilingual student? What is an IEP? What's a 504? We use all these terms, and if they use the word interventions, which we use a lot, ask them, what does that mean? So again, I know some of us had past or negative experiences with school. Again, as I said earlier, let's put them to the side. And I know it's going to take time to trust the system, but we need to do it for what's best for our kids. Culture differences, there's going to be a lot of culture differences. It's good to educate the school about how you engage and how you would like to engage with the school. And maybe together we could define what feminine engagement would look like. That will make more sense, because then you know what's expected of you and the school will know what's expected of them. It's this two-way communication, right? And of course, childcare constraints sometimes, and you could tell the school, I'll be able to come, but I'm bringing my kids with me. And some of us have more than one kid, and it's okay, and the school should know that. And there's other obstacles. So whatever the obstacles might be, try to work through them. Talk to other parents about how they went about it. Talk to the school and let them know that you have obstacles. You know, things change when parents, caregiver is an active participating partner with their child. Think about that. Things change. And of course, parent engagement begins at the house. And we're going to go over some of this. What does that mean? It starts at the home. It does. Spending time with the child is critical. It's critical that you try to at least eat breakfast or dinner. And I know some of us have 2 or 3 jobs, but maybe at least once or twice a week, you could spend time with your whole family eating dinner. You could start having conversations. You could hear about their school day. You could hear about their friends. You could ask them, how do you feel about your teacher? How do you feel about your friends? How do you feel about what you're learning? Instead of what are you learning, but how are you feeling about this? And then ask them, well, tell me more about what you're learning. Why do you feel this way about this class? It's about talking to your child. It's about teaching your child to be a reader. We have to be role models, and we have to let them see us read. We have to start reading from the minute that child is in the womb, from the minute that child is crawling. We have to start teaching them. They could see the pictures, and then they could start making connections, you know, that words have sound, just like I told you earlier. Sounds create words, words create phrases, phrases create sentences, and so on and so forth. And they start to understand how you read, how you hold the book. The pictures tell a story. It's also good to take them to the library. Library, it's, the library opens so many worlds as far as imagination and knowledge is powerful. And no one can take that away from you. That knowledge that you put it in here by reading, by learning it, it's power that no one can take away from my kids. And the more they know, the more they read, you're going to start noticing their vocabulary. They're going to be using some words that you're like, whoa, that's a fancy word. What does that mean? And you're going to be able to learn with them. So again, encourage your child to read. When you can, take your child to school, sit with them, join them for breakfast, for lunch, find out how you can volunteer, find out how you could support your child at home. Join the PTA. We take for granted the Parent Teacher Association. But you know what? Together, it's one child, one voice, and they could do so much to help you, especially to advocate for everybody, but especially for your child. I talked to you earlier about how my mother created a place where I have my school supplies. It's very important that students, your child, since little, they know this is my space. This is where I keep my shoes, my bag. This is where I have my books. You have to have a place where they could do their homework. And also, you have to help your child develop good routines. It takes 21 times to do one thing over and over again to become a routine. If you miss one day, guess what? You have to start all over again. 21 times, every day, so it becomes naturally to them. And that's what we need to do. We need to teach them to stick to the routine, to do it. Whatever routine you have, it has to be consistent. We have to make sure that we encourage them to be responsible for work, for homework, and at the same time, we are helping them to become independent. And that's what we want. We need to let them know that it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay if they don't know how to do their homework, it's okay, but they have to go back and tell the teacher, or you write them a note in whatever language and you let the teachers know, my child needs assistance. In summary, it is crucial or important for you, for us, to really, really have high expectations for our children and to support them and to meet them where they are and to really advocate. And we're going to get to that advocacy piece in a minute. We need to be aware of our kids' social life. Who are their friends? What activities do they like to do? What's available in the community? Is there a Boys and Girls Club? If there's any summer camps. You know, we take for granted all the beautiful camps that are offered. Sometimes it requires money, but we take for granted that they have scholarships. We need to ask, are there any scholarships? And many times they are. And find out and put your kids in there. So overall, it is a two-way communication. Family engagement research indicates that two-way communication is a fundamental core process. Schools seem to be the only ones paying attention to the parents that are present, but not the invisibles. We need to show up. But again, it doesn't mean that the invisible parents are not engaged. My mom was engaged, and I thought she did a good job. But knowing what I know now, if my mother would have been engaged, I could see my mother being a leader in that school. I could see my mother becoming a cultural broker for other Latino women or other parents and advocating. I see my mother being at the school board meetings, fighting against equity, fighting against the inequities that exist. Again, think about it. Just because you're invisible doesn't mean you don't care, but we have to also show that we are there. Estamos presentes. We are present. So of course, it's again talking with your child's teacher. Introduce yourself at the beginning of the school year, make sure who you are. If your child has more than one teacher, meet with everybody, find out their expectations, find out how your expectations, find out how you define family engagement and work together so they know this is how I want to be engaged. This is how I want you to communicate with me. No, I don't do text, but you could call me. No, I don't do emails, but you could text me. You know what? I could only use the WhatsApp. Hey, send me a message that way. No, I don't know how to use Google Meet, but you could, hit me up on WhatsApp and we could have a face-to-face meeting, or teach me how to use Google Meet, or teach me how to better engage with you. So it's talking with your child's teacher, make sure that you let them know how you want to be engaged. Let them know about the barriers that you are experiencing. Let them know, you know what? I'm sure my mother would have been there and said, I could hardly read and write, so tell me how you want me to support my child. How can I support my child? Give me the tools, give me the resources, show me how. So that's what we need to do to encourage those caregivers, those parents to use their voice. Don't be silent. And again, attend school events. It doesn't matter. Even if you don't speak the language, just by you being present says a lot. It says, I'm here, I'm engaged, I care, and I want what's best for my child. So please, and your child is going to be so proud of you when you show up. It doesn't matter if you don't speak the language, just be there. And then it's going to force the school to pay attention that, oh, I see, like if they would have seen my mom, oh, I see Rosa's mom there. But we notice she doesn't speak English. Maybe we need to bring an interpreter for her. Common sense, but again, sometimes we take things for granted. So again, meet the teacher, join the parent teacher, the PTA, be engaged, because you know what? What happens in the house is going to determine what happens in the school. I'm going to share one thing that I learned through all my career in education. I learned that the loudest parents always get what they want. Think about that. So we, as parents, we need to be present. We need to make noise in a nice way. We need to be present. We need to make sure that we show up at the school, but also what happens in the house is going to determine what's happening in the school. We have to make sure that we give our kids the tools that we think they need. In my culture, it's about, when we think about how well educated your child is, we think about manners. ¿Cómo se porta mi hijo? How does my child behave? When I teach a foundations of feminine community engagement, and I asked my educators, I said, what do you think when I ask you, are you educated? You know, mi hijo está bien educado. Or right away they think about, oh, I have all these degrees, I have all this education. For Latinos, it's more about, oh, see, my child is well behaved. He pays attention to the elders. You know, he is polite. So we have to understand those little cultural things and educate the school that our child are well educated, because they will pay attention to the teacher. They put and place the teacher on a pedestal. What the teacher says goes. In fact, in the Latino community culture, there's only two people that we highly respect, and that is the teacher and the priest. Padres, el padre. 95% of Latinos in Latino countries, we are predominant Catholics. So yes, we respect the priest and we respect the teacher. So again, if you are a Latino parent, I want you to start questioning the school. I want you to start showing up. Don't be that invisible parent, show up. So now let's talk about my favorite subject, advocacy. Woo! What does that mean? Advocacy is an action that speaks in favor or recommends, argues for a cause, supports or defends or pleads on behalf of others. Basically, what it means is that you speak up to make things better, okay? You could speak up for yourself. You could speak up for others. You advocate. In Espanol es abogar. You advocate. You have to use your voice. And it's interesting because some people say, well, I don't know how to advocate, Rosa. I don't know all those policies and all the law that you need to do that. You don't need that. Each of us has already been an advocate. You may not have attached that label to it, right? But you have done it. You may be advocating for yourself, or you may be advocating for others, and you don't even know you've spoken up. Maybe you spoke up to a teacher when you asked your teacher, you know, my child is being bullied. I need you to do something about it. You're advocating for your child and you're telling them to do something about it. Maybe you say, you know, my child is not learning and I need you to make sure that you give them, remember that where I show you interventions? What interventions are you doing to make sure that my child understands how to read and write? You're advocating and you don't even know it. So again, you probably don't know if you have a child with disabilities. Maybe you already have spoken up and say, you know, I need for my child to get an evaluation. I think there's a learning disability. So again, you have spoken up. And so why be an advocate? Your experiences are valuable and you could use to improve things. Whether you have experience working with a child of this, you know, with disabilities, whether you are a parent of a child that English is their second language, or as they call them now, a multilingual student. Whether you are a parent that had a child that was just so smart and you wanted him to be challenged and you didn't know that there is a program called AIG for intellectual gifted kids. Again, you know something that is not working and you want something to work for your child. You know that your child is so smart, but he's becoming bored, that he is acting out, but you don't know that there's something to help them. Or maybe you don't know that there is a class, but you are advocating by asking, by telling, by saying, I need something in place for my child. Or you might have an idea, or you have only long-term connections to this child is you, and you want to make sure that you know what's best for your child. Remember, I told you we have to pay attention to how they develop, because it's a long-term connection that we have to our child, and we know we need to pay attention to those things so that then we could advocate. As we think about advocacy, how do we become a good advocate for your child? And this is what we need to understand. We need to know the process of how to advocate. We need to know how the process begins and how to go up the chain of command. And I want you to pay attention to this. Anytime we have a concern and you want to advocate, you always have to start with your child's teacher, always. If it doesn't work with that teacher, or you're not seeing improvement, you're not seeing that she's really paying attention to you, she's not following up, you take it to the assistant principal. If you have children in middle and high school, there's going to be more than one assistant principal. So you need to find out which one is your child's assistant principal. Also, in middle and high school, they might have more than one teacher. So you might want to bring the whole team, all the teachers that teach your child. So if it doesn't work with the teacher or teachers, doesn't work with the assistant principal, you take it to the principal. You take the concern to the principal's attention. You feel that the principal is not serving you, is not listening, it's not doing what you want, you take it to the area superintendent. Some schools have area superintendents, or they might just have one superintendent, depending on where you live. If there's more than one area superintendent, find out which one is the one that it's responsible for your school. If that area superintendent does not help you, you take it to the next step, superintendent. If the superintendent doesn't want to help you, you take it to the school board. Okay? You take it to the school board. You're going to go up the chain. So now let me give you some skills so that you can become an effective, and I mean an effective advocate. You need to understand the reason for advocating. Why are you advocating? Why are you there? What's the problem? What is it that you need? What is it that you want for your child? What is it, right? So you have to think about it. If it's bullying that's happening and you want to change that, is it that you want your child to get an evaluation because you think they might have a learning disability or a speech problem? You want an evaluation. Is it that you want your child to be challenged because he's just so smart and he's misbehaving and you want him to be challenged? Maybe you're advocating for a gifted, intelligent class. Or maybe your child needs support because he has a learning disability and you don't know what it is, but you need support. You need to know the players. Who are the players? So the teacher, the principal, who are the players, right? Is there more than one teacher? And then know your rights and responsibilities. We as parents have rights and responsibilities. Look them up. You have the right to request an evaluation. You have the right to be notified how your child is going to learn. You have the right to be notified how your child is going to be assessed. You have the right to ask for a psychological evaluation. You have the right to volunteer and be in your child's school or just go to your child's schools and observe. So you need to become organized, okay? As parents, when something happens to our kids, we get very emotional. I know I do. I remember when my child was bullied one time, I thought I lost it. You know, at that minute, I was just thinking about my son and the safety of my child. And, you know, Mama Bear comes out of you. I don't care. Mama Bear will come out. So you get all the emotional because you're so upset how good they are. They're there. You know, I don't understand why they let older kids eat with little kids and they're picking at them. You know, you get so angry and you get so upset. I cannot believe this kid, da, 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 da. I mean, you just get so passionate and you're just furious. It's okay. Get your emotions out, get it out. Cry, kick, because that's what I did. Then breathe and think about the facts. Fact 1, my child eats lunch with 5th graders. My child is a kindergarten. Fact 2, it's been 2 weeks that a 5th grader keeps coming to my child and gets his food and rubs it against his face. My child had told the teacher. The teacher's not doing anything about it. I contacted the teacher. She promised she was going to change it. She didn't. Write the facts. On this day, I called the school. I spoke to the teacher. On this day, I met with the teacher. She said she was going to do this, do that, da, da, da. Nothing happened. Facts. What are the facts? Organize. When you show up, you're not showing up as being angry. You're going to show up as being concerned, and something is to change. Use clear and effective communication. I know. Sometimes we let the emotions, and we just have to make sure that we use just clear. Doesn't have to be big, elaborated words. It could be simple words. But make sure that they understand your clear message. I'm here because we have an issue. It is not just my child who's being bullied by the 5th graders. It's other kindergartens. We have an issue. How are we going to solve this problem? I have an idea. Have you considered? Have you wondered if you could move the 5th graders to another time? Have you thought that maybe the kindergartens or the 5th graders could eat in their classrooms? Have you considered to have other TAs or teachers supervising during lunch, because there's only one person and she cannot be everywhere? Have you considered? So you come in with, I have a problem. I went and talked to so and so forth. Nothing has been done. Have you wondered about some suggestions of alleviating or taking care of this problem? And note too, how to resolve disagreements. They might say, no, we cannot do that. We don't have space. We are a very small school. Then I said, okay, have you considered to then move the 5th graders to their classroom? Or can we use the library? Or is there a space that's not being used? So again, this is some 6 skills that work very well when you advocate for your child. And there's different types of advocacies. You know, you might want, remember I used the word intervention. Intervention is about what is the school doing to make sure that your child is learning academically. You might want to say, what are the interventions that you are using? So remember that if your child is struggling with reading and writing, just say, okay, what interventions are you using in school to help my child? Or can you share some of the interventions that you're using? A 504 plan is very similar to a special needs plan, but it's different. The child does not really qualify for a whole individualized educational plan, but there might be a way that they could qualify for a 504 plan. It's basically a plan where they will make modifications for your child. For example, I know that if my mother would have been an advocate, she would have advocated for me to have a 504 plan, because I need more time to process information. It takes me longer to read a paragraph because the way I learn is very, very different than everybody. I need to break it down. I take each sentence and I spend time just trying to analyze what is being said. So 504 would have been a perfect plan for me to give me more times when I take a test, especially reading, or to complete assignments in the classroom. individualized education plan. If you think that your child might have a learning disability, you could request an evaluation, and if he or she qualifies, it will create an IEP, which is an individualized plan. If you think your child is gifted, my mother would argue that I was gifted. It's just taking longer to process because I like to break things in small pieces. She would argue for me to be placed in an AIG, which is an academically intelligent program. She probably would argue for me to be in a magnet school and focus in languages. I love languages. And magnet schools is a school that still follows the same curriculum as everybody else, but has a theme. They specialize whether in literature, performing arts, technology, languages, STEM, you name it, there's different focuses. We could also, my mother would have advocated for me as an English language learner or multilingual student. She would argue that I probably would have benefited from more time being with a teacher that would have teach me English. There's also homeless students that we need to advocate for. Sometimes we lose, and there's a lot of parents that have lost their home. They might qualify for the Keynote program, which would help homeless students as well as homeless families. So we need to argue so that parents who are homeless get the benefits that they need. We need to advocate for them. Discipline, suspension, as our children get more into middle school, they might be, sometimes they get suspended. When you look at the inequities that exist between Black and Brown children, one of the disproportionalities that you will see is the discipline data. There's more and more students of color that look like me. They are being suspended as well as African-American and Black students. So the disproportionality data shows that there's something wrong with short and long suspension. And this is the area that I really want to encourage parents to advocate. You really have to advocate for those long-term suspensions and short suspensions, because the way they apply the policies is very different the way they apply it from one school to another. And you want to see the inequities that exist. One child might not get suspended, but it's the same infraction that they committed. And one doesn't get suspended, and one gets long-term suspended, which means that it could be long-term suspended for the whole year. So again, the inequities, right, that exist, and this is what we really have to use our voice and advocate. Honor courses, as our kids get into middle and high school, they need to start taking honor courses, you know, and advanced placement. Advanced placement courses would, if you have your child take those courses, they're going to get credit at the university. So, and others, there's other ways to advocate, but these are some of the things that I see that we need to really, as parents, advocate for those students and others, especially as our kids get into high school. I see a lot of kids that could benefit from taking honor courses and they don't. They take standard courses or they take advanced placement. In advanced placement, you often see a lot of Caucasian students taking them, or Asian students, versus Latinos and Black kids. We need to make sure that we advocate for more students of color being placed in those advanced placements as well as those gifted classes. Because what I learned is that there is a lot of gifted kids, but because of our color, because of our background, they don't see us as smart enough to be in those gifted classes. And this is why we need to advocate for our kids. We need to show up, because I like this quote that says, the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. And I want you to know that parents, caregivers have a lot of power. You just have to know how to use it. You have to advocate. I gave you 6 skills of how to do that. You need to understand. And let me get to the final slides, but I want you to use your power, because it's about access, right? It's about, if you know family engagement, if you know advocacy, then guess what? Access will come naturally. Because let me tell you what access means. Is is referred to the way in which educational institutions and policies ensure, or at least strive to ensure, that students have equal and equitable opportunities to take full advantage of their education. Let's unpack this for a little bit. Equal and equitable opportunities, right? We have to advocate that our kids get what they need. That's equity. Equity is about giving every child what they need. It's about giving every family, every caregiver what they need. Everybody is going to need something different. Rosa, back then in school, would have needed a little bit more time with getting the reading done, right? She would have benefited from a 504. Definitely, I would have benefited from a 504. Rosa would have benefited to be in a gifted program. But because my mom didn't know how to advocate, didn't understand how feminine engagement is perceived in this country, right? By being visible and using her voice and knowing how to use it. She didn't know how to access those programs for me. This is why when I was thinking about what am I going to talk to you about, I started thinking about my experience. And I started thinking about, if I could give these folks, you, whether you're a parent, a caregiver, whether you are a leader teaching parents about this, you need to talk about feminine engagement. One, it's critical. How you define it, how you want to be engaged. And you need to learn to use your voice. You need to advocate. You need to become an advocate. You need to learn how to be an advocate. And I gave you those tools. You need to be engaged. And I gave you the way to engage. Because then everything will follow as far as access. Because if you know how to navigate the educational system, you're going to know about the policies. You're going to know how to interrupt them. You're going to know who to go to. You're going to know how to advocate. Access is critical. It's even those opportunities. You know, many times when you think about the inequities, you always say, oh, it's about access. It's about access. I hear it all the time. Let's teach these parents to tap into those access. Okay, so you talk about the resources. Let's teach them. Let's teach and empower the parents with the academic tools that they need to support their child so that they can become academically successful. And that's what I want for you.
We're at time, Dr. Rosa.
And I am done. Thank you very much. Let me stop sharing. Muchas gracias.
I'll pass it over to Jenny, and thank you so much, Dr. MariaRosa.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Rosa. This was great. I learned a lot, and I appreciate you taking your time to be with us. So along with Marilyn and Kim, I'm Jenny Hobbs, and I am also a parent trainer for the Welcoming Families to the Table Training of Trainers program. I became a parent leader because of these guys right here, actually. Hopefully you can see them. Brought a little show and tell for you. So I'm the mom of these 4 guys, and my youngest 3 are medically complex and require a lot of special care. So my advocacy changed from advocating for just them to advocating for others about 7 or 8 years ago, when the main program that provides services and supports to our family was about to be cut by the state. I started by writing a letter to legislators that was shared on social media. And that led to a friend asking me to organize advocacy to fight against these cuts. I told her I didn't want to do it by myself. So she and I started doing daily advocacy action plans for everyone to do. And we eventually added a 3rd friend, and we got the attention of the Medicaid director of our state. I'm happy to say that we got those cuts stopped and developed a partnership with North Carolina Medicaid for our program. It's led to parent engagement for the very first time within that program, as well as getting parent engagement throughout Medicaid for the first time. being involved as a parent advocate is really empowering to see the difference that it can make. And now these little ones that you saw in the picture are now all young adults. The oldest three are all full-grown adults. And I still wanted to be involved in early childhood education just as a way to sort of give back, and because of my gratitude for everything that all of the programs have done to help get them to where they are today. So I just thank you all for the opportunity to be here today. I know that so many of you here in the audience can relate to the stories of Kim and Marilyn and MariaRosa and I shared today. I just want to encourage you to use your stories and your voice to continue your advocacy efforts. I hope that you'll meet other parents here today that can support you, that you can build community with, and that can advocate with you to bring a more family-centered early childhood system to North Carolina. We have many great breakout sessions throughout the rest of the day, and we hope that you will meet others and continue to share your stories like we did here today and beyond. So now I'll pass it over to our host to provide directions for the rest of our day. Thanks.